Imagine you are standing on this choked, just completely dying street.
Mm-hmm.
A plague is ravaging your planet.
Hmm.
And it's a sickness so brutal, like so unforgiving, that people are literally suffocating by the tens of thousands right in front of you.
Wow.
Right. Now imagine a ship pierces the clouds. It appears in the sky above all this wreckage, and this massive broadcast echoes down stating, "We have the cure. We have enough vaccines to save every single one of you."
Salvation, basically.
Exactly. And as that ship descends to deliver the salvation, you and the people dying around you look up, and you all cheer as your leader blows that medical ship completely out of the sky.
Yeah. It completely shatters every baseline assumption we hold about human nature.
Right.
Because, you expect a biological organism to prioritize survival of literally everything else. So when an entire population violently rejects its own biological salvation, you are no longer looking at a public health crisis.
Oh, no, at all.
You're witnessing a profound psychological override.
Which is the exact phenomenon we are unpacking today. We're taking a deep dive into a very specific, highly focused piece of science fiction literature.
Right.
We're looking at excerpts from the short story Dune, Red Plague by Brian Herbert and Kevin J. Anderson.
Yeah, it's a fascinating piece.
It really is. And our mission here, just to be clear, isn't just to recap a story for you. We are going to use this narrative as like a diagnostic tool to explore this terrifying, mind-bending collision between absolute, uncompromising ideological faith and cold, pragmatic logic.
It's the ultimate clash.
Totally. We're examining what actually happens when human survival is pitted directly against deeply held belief, and how that mirrors the psychological structures in our own world.
Yeah, and to process the weight of that collision, you really have to understand the foundational trauma of the universe we're stepping into here.
Oh, for sure. The context is everything.
Right. So humanity in this setting is in a state of fragile, paranoid rebuilding following this generations-long, just unimaginably bloody conflict known as the Butlerian Jihad.
And the enemy in this jihad wasn't like a competing political ideology or a foreign nation or anything normal.
No, the enemy was the thinking machines.
Right, the AI.
Exactly. Humanity had basically outsourced its cognition, its labor, and eventually its autonomy entirely to artificial intelligence and advanced computers.
And it backfired spectacularly.
To put it mildly, humanity was nearly exterminated by its own creations, and overthrowing them required this devastating near-extinction level war.
Which, leaves a massive societal vacuum.
Absolutely.
I mean, if you wipe out every computer, every calculator, every automated navigation system, you are essentially amputating the central nervous system of an interstellar civilization.
That's a great way to put it.
Yeah, and now the universe is fractured into these two violently polarized camps trying to fill that vacuum.
Right. So on one side, you have the Butlerians.
The zealots.
Yeah, the anti-technology zealots. To them, the machines weren't just, a failed experiment or a bad tool. They were literal demons.
Like spiritually evil.
Exactly. Any advanced machinery is viewed as a spiritual contagion.
And their primary antagonist in this fractured reality is Venport Holdings, which are the technological pragmatists, the industrialists.
Right. They are attempting to rebuild commerce, trade, and medicine using advanced, albeit non-AI technology.
Yeah, no thinking machines, but still high tech.
Yes. They operate under the philosophy that the thinking machines themselves were the problem, not the underlying mathematics or science.
So you have a universe split right down the middle. One faction believes technology is the only path to saving humanity's future, and the other believes technology will permanently damn humanity's soul.
It's the ultimate ideological powder keg.
It really is. Okay, let's unpack this. Because an ideology, especially a fanatical one, it doesn't just sustain itself in a vacuum.
No, it needs a spark.
Right. It requires a catalyst. It requires a charismatic figurehead who embodies the movement's core grievances.
And for the Butlerians, that leader is Manford Torondo.
Yes, Manford. And if we're going to understand how a leader can command his people to cheer for the destruction of their own cure, we have to examine the literal, physical scars of his past.
We really do. The narrative throws us immediately into Manford's recurring nightmare.
And the imagery is just visceral.
Oh, it's intense. You are pulled right into the epicenter of a trauma that defines his entire existence.
We are dropped into Manford's memory of a massive rally, right?
Yeah, held by his mentor, Rena Butler, who is the original visionary of this whole anti-technology crusade.
And he's just standing in the crowd, absorbing the collective energy, the sheer devotion of the movement.
And then the memory violently fractures. The bombing happens.
The memory of the explosion is seared into his brain like a sun ripping open right next to Rena.
That's exactly how it's described.
You feel the shock wave, the sheer kinetic energy that tears bodies apart. He sees the mangled remnants of his mentor, her clothing just soaked in blood.
It's horrific.
And Manford, in this catatonic state of shock, tries to run to her. But he realizes his body isn't responding. Like, he can't run, he has to drag himself.
Because the blast has entirely obliterated the lower half of his body.
Yeah.
It leaves him with only these gruesome shreds below his hips. And what is psychologically vital here is his reaction in that exact moment.
Right, he doesn't do what you'd expect.
Exactly. He doesn't look down at his own catastrophic, life-ending injuries and panic about his own survival.
No.
He uses his bloody elbows to literally drag his severed torso toward Rena. He is trying to hold on to the light in her eyes as she dies.
Oh, man.
He summons the energy to scream, and that specific scream echoing from the past is what jerks him awake in the present.
He wakes up in this narrow bed, his truncated body covered by a rough woolen blanket. He is literally half a man. And immediately, his physical needs are met by Inari, Idaho.
The Swordmaster.
Yeah, his swordmaster. She's this incredibly muscular, intensely devoted warrior who essentially functions as his physical guardian.
He's a smart
Completely. And the moment he wakes up, still dripping with the sweat of this nightmare, he verbalizes his core operating principle.
Right. The quote is so telling.
He says, Rena still blesses me with her memories. Even the most horrific vision of her is still her. Yet the burden falls to me to do the best I can to carry on her work. I must save the soul of humanity from its own temptation.
Let's isolate that sentiment for a second.
Yeah, please.
He views a horrific, traumatizing nightmare where his legs are blown off as a blessing.
A blessing.
Right? This indicates a profound psychological entrenchment. He isn't trying to heal from his trauma.
No, he's holding on to it.
He is actively cultivating it.
Yeah.
He is tending to his psychological wounds so they never close, because those wounds are the actual source of his authority.
Oh, you know, I look at Manford's physical ruin, and my instinct is to see it as, like, a corrupted navigational gyroscope.
Oh, that's an interesting analogy.
Right. Like, no matter how the universe shifts around him, no matter what new data is introduced, that physical trauma forces his internal horizon back to the exact moment of that explosion.
Yes.
Every policy he enforces, every speech he gives is just a recreation of dragging himself on bloody elbows toward a dying mentor. He literally cannot process a new direction.
Yeah, he's stuck.
His body is a permanent biological monument to his grievance.
And the narrative introduces a specific concept that Manford reflects on to justify this exact state. He calls himself half a man, twice the leader.
Half a man, twice the leader.
Wow. Consider the mechanics of martyrdom as a leadership tool here. How does a leader weaponize his own physical ruin?
By making it a symbol.
By becoming a living, breathing sacrifice. When his followers look at him, they don't process his missing legs as a disability.
Right.
They process it as untouchable piety. You cannot question the dedication of a man who has surrendered half of his physical form to the cause and just continues to fight.
Yeah, it completely shuts down criticism.
It short-circuits any rational critique from his followers, creating a terrifyingly deep, unquestioning loyalty.
And you see that loyalty physically manifested in Inari, Idaho.
Oh, absolutely.
She isn't just standing guard at a door like a normal bodyguard. She physically carries him in a specially designed harness on her back.
Literally carries him.
Yeah. When he needs to address a crowd, she lifts his legless torso and straps him to her. She is the literal muscle supporting a paralyzed ideology.
It is a deeply codependent, almost symbiotic relationship.
Completely.
Manford provides the unyielding vision, and his followers, embodied by Inari, provide the physical bodies required to execute it.
It distills the entire Butlerian movement into a single visual. But, you know, we have to evaluate the long-term viability of a movement engineered entirely from the fires of trauma. Manford looks across the universe at Josef Venport, the industrialist, and he explicitly links Venport's new technology to the horrific thinking machines of the past.
Even though it's not the same thing.
Right. He calls Venport a demon and the technology cursed. Which makes me wonder if a movement built like this can ever actually achieve victory. or if victory would just destroy it.
That's the paradox.
It seems like the Butlerian movement is an engine that runs exclusively on existential threat. If it runs out of enemies, the engine starves.
It is an inescapable sociological trap. If you define your entire identity by what you are actively destroying, you are forced to constantly invent new demons.
Right.
If Josef Venport and his ships didn't exist, Manford would have to invent a new heresy to fight.
Because without it.
Because without a constant looming threat to the soul of humanity, Manford's catastrophic physical sacrifice loses its cosmic meaning.
Yeah, it was all for nothing.
The war can never end because peace would force him to confront the reality that he is just a deeply traumatized man missing half his body.
It's a terrifying psychological closed loop.
Completely closed off.
But if Manford Torondo is the embodiment of pure, irrational, traumatized belief, his rival is the exact opposite.
Night and day.
We shift from the ascetic, bloody reality of the Butlerians to the absolute pinnacle of cold, untouched, cynical commerce. We transition to the empire of Josef Venport.
And the environmental contrast is just jarring.
Oh, yeah.
We move from Manford's rough woolen blanket to Josef Venport operating from his capital world of Kolhar.
Very different vibe.
He's sitting at a pristine desk in a massive corporate tower. Venport is described with this thick, cinnamon-colored mustache, projecting the aura of a supremely comfortable industrialist.
The ultimate CEO.
Yes, he is the director of Venport Holdings, commanding a vast fleet of fold spaceships guided by mutant navigators.
And we really need to clarify what that technology actually implies for the listener.
Good idea.
We mentioned the destruction of all computers. So how do you navigate a massive cargo ship across the universe at faster-than-light speeds without a navigation computer?
It sounds impossible.
Right. Venport's solution is both brilliant and deeply, deeply unsettling. He uses human mutants who are saturated in this stuff called spice gas.
Right, the spice.
Yeah, this chemical expands their consciousness, allowing their biological brains to actually fold space and time, so they are plotting safe courses through the cosmos without a single silicon chip.
It is a massive, bizarre technological workaround.
Yeah, very alien.
It is a radical biological circumvention of the ban on thinking machines, and it has made Venport incredibly powerful, but also incredibly vulnerable.
Because it's illegal.
Exactly. His commercial empire is currently outlawed by Emperor Roderick Carino. So he is a corporate outlaw running a massive illegal monopoly. He is basically holding the universe's economy hostage because the Imperium desperately needs the resources that only his mutated navigators can safely transport.
So he is operating on a razor's edge here.
Very precarious.
So when the data crosses his pristine desk that a horrific disease, the Red Plague, is broken out on the planet Walgis, his reaction is completely devoid of humanity.
Oh, it's chilling.
Keep in mind, Walgis is a strictly Butlerian, anti-technology world.
Right, his enemies.
Venport reads the reports of thousands of people dying agonizing deaths. And he literally smiles.
He actually smiles.
He says, let them cry, let them bleed. He views it as a simple objective equation. Like, they rejected the tenets of modern medicine, therefore they have earned the biological consequences.
Pure cause and effect to him.
Yeah. He even notes that the plug is naturally reducing the population of Butlerian fanatics, which is a net positive for his quarterly projections.
And this is where the narrative introduces the Mentat Drago Roget.
Yes, Drago.
To understand Drago, you have to understand the Mentat discipline. When humanity destroyed the computers, they still needed the computational power to run an interstellar society.
Right, you still need math.
Exactly. So Mentats are humans trained from childhood to enter a cognitive trance, processing data with the pure, unfeeling logic and speed of a supercomputer.
Human computers.
Yes. Drago is described as black-garbed, standing like a statue, his thoughts perfectly ordered. He represents the absolute pinnacle of human rationality.
The ultimate logic.
And Drago, crunching the geopolitical data, suggests that Venport should intervene and save the dying people of Walgis.
But I want to be very clear here for the listener. Drago isn't suggesting this out of sudden moral clarity.
Oh, no.
He hasn't calculated the ethical weight of a human soul or anything like that.
Not at all. What's fascinating here is that Drago approaches compassion as a tactical maneuver.
Weaponized charity.
Exactly. He calculates that providing medical assistance will cause serious psychological damage to the Butlerian movement.
Wow.
Let's break down the game theory of this PR strategy. Drago recognizes that Manford's power relies on his followers believing their leader has a divine mandate.
Right.
If Venport Holdings swoops in and cures a plague that Manford's relentless praying cannot touch, it completely shatters that illusion.
It proves Manford is powerless.
It humiliatingly demonstrates that Venport's pragmatic technology is vastly superior to Manford's theology. It's a calculated move to look like a benevolent savior, undermine a rival, and generate enough public goodwill to maybe force the emperor to reconsider Venport's outlaw status.
I really have to push back on the mask of civilization Venport wears here, though.
Oh, absolutely. Go ahead.
Venport looks down from his tower at Manford, calling him a barbarian, a zealot, an irrational madman. He truly believes he is the beacon of reason.
He thinks he's the good guy.
But look at the mechanics of his decision-making. Venport is entirely willing to let tens of thousands of innocent people suffocate on their own fluids, just to prove a philosophical point.
Yeah.
He only pivots towards saving them when his human computer convinces him that charity is an aggressive weapon that serves his bottom line.
It's pure leverage.
My instinct is that Venport isn't actually more civilized than Manford. Like, he just possesses a more socially acceptable brand of sociopathy.
That is a critical evaluation. Venport's logic is entirely transactional. A human life only possesses value if it yields a return on investment.
Exactly.
In this scenario, the investment is a marginal expenditure of medical supplies and fuel, and the return is the potential ideological collapse of his greatest enemy.
The ultimate ROI.
He is trading vaccines for political leverage. Empathy does not factor into his calculations for even a second.
And the narrative gives us perfectly encapsulates why the Butlerians view him as a monster.
The scene with the navigator.
Yes. While Venport is casually discussing this weaponized charity, he is looking out his window, watching a massive delivery vehicle pumping sealed spice gas into one of his ships to fill a mutant navigator's tank. It's a bizarre, heavily industrialized, very alien process.
It's unnatural to them.
Right. You can instantly understand why the Butlerians who live agrarian, deliberately primitive lives look at Venport's empire and see a grotesque perversion of nature. The psychological gap between these two realities is completely unbridgeable.
But Venport's pristine, logical spreadsheet is suddenly interrupted by the messy, unquantifiable reality of biology.
Yeah, the real world intrudes.
While these two titans, the zealot and the industrialist, are playing high-stakes geopolitical chess, actual human bodies are failing.
Right.
And Dr. Rohan Zim walks into Venport's sterile environment carrying the literal stench of death, basically representing the healers caught in the crossfire.
Dr. Zim is from the Souk Medical School on the planet Parmentier.
Yeah.
He has this long, steel gray hair, a pointed beard, and wears a loose white robe.
Very classic doctor aesthetic.
Yeah. And Zim doesn't bother arguing politics with Venport. He uses the raw, undeniable reality of human suffering.
He shows him the proof.
He drops a data crystal onto Venport's desk and projects holographic recordings of the plague right into the middle of this pristine corporate office.
And the holograms are designed to obliterate any abstract political detachment.
You can't look away.
You are forced to look at endless lines of rickety beds. You see victims writhing in fever, their skin turning this necrotic grayish tone, their faces erupting in scarlet blotches. Tens of thousands are dead, and the infection rate is exponential. It is a complete biological collapse.
And what makes this infinitely more tragic is the medical reality of the Red Plague.
Right, the disease itself.
Dr. Zim explains that they aren't fighting a novel, mutating alien virus here. The Red Plague is an ancient, well-documented disease.
It's basically a solved problem.
Exactly. It has been mostly eradicated across the civilized universe. The cure isn't a mystery. It's literally sitting in boxes.
Just waiting.
Zim's medical school has already synthesized 100,000 doses of a standard vaccine. The only bottleneck is logistics. They just need Venport's fold spaceships to bypass the massive distances of space and drop the cure onto the planet.
Which brings us to the profound friction of Dr. Zim's position. Zim is bound by the Souk medical oath. This is an unwavering mandate to tend to the sick, regardless of their political alignments.
That's true, Doctor.
But to fulfill this oath, he's attempting to save a population that actively despises him.
Yeah, that's the kicker.
The Butlerians don't just passively object to advanced medicine. If we connect this to the bigger picture, the narrative points out that a mob of these anti-technology fanatics previously burned down the long-standing Souk medical school on another planet entirely.
They literally burned it to the ground.
They view artificial organs, surgical advances, and advanced pharmacology as abhorrent mutations of the human form.
Right.
They have violently attacked the exact people who are now begging for a ship to save them.
Here's where it gets really interesting. The dynamic here is absolutely fascinating. Imagine you're a highly trained firefighter. Okay.
Okay.
You pull up to a house completely engulfed in flames. You have the hose connected, the water is ready. But the homeowner is standing on the blazing front porch holding a shotgun,
Right.
aiming it right at your chest, screaming that the fire is a necessary spiritual cleansing and promising to kill you if you let a single drop of water touch the wood.
That is exactly it. It perfectly illustrates the mechanical failure of the Butlerian philosophy.
It's so self-destructive.
Their entire movement is predicated on rejecting advanced technology to preserve what they call pure humanity. They argue that relying on machines strips away the human soul.
Right.
Yet, in their desperate obsession with this purity, they are forced to amputate the most defining human instinct.
Which is?
The capacity for altruism, the drive to heal, and the desire to protect the vulnerable.
Wow. Yeah.
By rejecting the tools of compassion, they engineer a level of cruelty that is vastly more inhuman than the microchips they fear.
But Dr. Zim pushes past that. He tells Venport, there was nothing like watching one's family moan and die in feverish misery to make a person reassess esoteric beliefs.
He's betting on biology.
He is. He's betting that the primal biological imperative to survive will overpower their ideological programming. He believes that a mother watching her child suffocate will choose the vaccine over the dogma.
It's a logical assumption.
It is. Zim's commitment is the only pure, uncalculated altruism we witness in this entire ecosystem.
And Venport, continually swayed by Drago's assessment of the PR victory, finally authorizes the mission.
He says yes.
He allocates a small space folder ship to transport Dr. Zim, his team, and the 100,000 vaccines. The logistical hurdle is cleared. The cure is en route.
Thank goodness.
However, simultaneously, Manford Torondo has mobilized.
Oh, no.
He has arrived at Walgis, but he hasn't brought doctors. He has brought a fleet of Butlerian battleships to enforce a military quarantine cordon in orbit.
So he's blocking them.
Yes. He has come to offer prayers and love to his dying people.
The stage is completely set for a climax that actively tests the limits of human psychology.
It really does.
The Venhold medical ship drops out of fold space directly into the orbit of Walgis. The doctors look out the observation windows. They see the diseased planet below, but between them and the atmosphere is a glowing, heavily armed net of Butlerian warships.
And Dr. Zim, he operates under the assumption of shared reality.
Like we said, he thinks they won't live.
He believes everyone fundamentally wants to live, so he immediately opens a wideband communication channel to the planet and the warships.
He makes his pitch.
He broadcasts a message of pure salvation. He says, "We respect all life, without regard to political or religious beliefs. Your suffering is nearly ended. We will care for you and save as many as we possibly can. We have brought vaccines."
Which is such a powerful message. But then the narrative aggressively yanks us onto the bridge of Manford Torondo's flagship.
Right.
Remember his physical positioning? He is strapped into the leather harness, riding high on the shoulders of Inari, Idaho.
Looming over everyone.
Yeah, he is looking down at the planet, absorbing the desperate adulation of his infected followers.
And when Manford hears Dr. Zim's broadcast, he does not process it as a medical intervention.
No.
He processes it as a direct existential attack on his authority. He views the vaccines as, quote, supposed hope and deceptive miracles.
Deceptive miracles.
His jaw tightens. He reaches down and grips Inari's shoulders, literally drawing physical stability from her solid frame, and he completely ignores the doctors.
You don't even talk to them.
No, he redirects his communication channel directly to the dying population below.
And the speech he gives is a terrifying masterclass in ideological manipulation.
Oh, it's chilling.
He doesn't deny the plague. He weaponizes it.
Mm-hmm.
He tells his people, you are strong enough without medicine. He invokes the sacred memory of Raina Butler, claiming she endured horrific plagues because God wanted her to recover.
The ultimate guilt trip.
Right, like if you die, you just weren't faithful enough. He tells them that Venport is an insidious demon trying to trick them into giving up their souls in exchange for their bodies.
He is engineering a framework for holy martyrdom.
Yeah.
And then he delivers the final devastating transmission. He looks at the people suffocating from a preventable disease and says, "Rejoice, you are saved."
Oh my God.
And without a fraction of a second of hesitation, feeling absolutely no doubt, he orders his battleships to open fire on the Venhold medical ship.
He does it.
The crew flawlessly executes the command. The space folder, Dr. Zim, the team of doctors, and 100,000 doses of the cure are vaporized into a cloud of atomic dust.
I really have to pause here.
Yeah, it's a lot.
When I read this sequence, I found myself actively struggling with the mechanics of this reality.
How so?
I'm trying to wrap my head around this from a sociological perspective. Like, we can dissect Manford's twisted rationalizations. He thinks he's protecting their souls from eternal damnation. But I need you to help me understand the people on the ground.
The followers.
Yeah. The narrative explicitly states that the people on the planet below, the ones covered in scarlet eruptions, the ones dying, they cheered when the medical ship was destroyed.
They cheered.
How does human psychology allow a mother holding a dying child to cheer for the destruction of the cure?
To understand that reaction, you have to look at the psychological concept of identity fusion.
Okay, identity fusion.
This occurs when an individual's personal identity becomes completely intertwined with a group identity or an ideology.
So they are the group.
Yes. For the people of Walgis, their belief in the Butlerian cause isn't just an opinion, it is the structural foundation of their reality. If they were to accept the vaccine from Venport, who is the literal demon of their theology, they wouldn't just be accepting medicine.
They'd be accepting defeat.
They would be admitting that their entire worldview is a lie. They would be admitting that the generations of bloody holy war were pointless, and that their current agonizing suffering has no cosmic meaning.
Wait, so if they take the cure, they have to face the fact that there are just biological organisms dying randomly in a cold, indifferent universe.
Exactly. And terror management theory suggests that humans will go to extraordinary lengths to maintain their cultural worldview.
Because it protects them.
Because it protects them from the paralyzing terror of their own mortality and insignificance. For a zealot, a meaningless universe is infinitely more terrifying than biological death.
Wow.
Manford isn't just killing them, he's providing them with a narrative structure where their painful deaths are elevated to holy sacrifice.
He's making it mean something.
When he destroys the ship, he validates their suffering. He is assuring them, your pain is sacred and I will not let the enemy steal your purity. They cheer because preserving the architecture of their identity is more important than preserving their pulse.
Preserving the architecture of their identity over their pulse. That perfectly decodes the hyper-specific physical detail the narrative highlights right before Manford gives the firing order.
Gripping the shoulders.
Yeah. The way he grips Inari Idaho's shoulders.
Yeah.
The text describes her feeling as solid as an old tree. He is literally tethered to the physical embodiment of unquestioning devotion.
Mm-hmm.
He draws his power from the physical mass of people willing to die for his ideas. It's a chilling feedback loop of codependency.
It is absolute weaponized irrationality.
Yeah.
And the shockwave of that explosion in orbit around Walgis doesn't dissipate in space.
No, it echoes.
It ripples outward, traveling across the fold space network, and strikes the supposedly logical center of the universe with world-shattering force.
Which pulls us back to the pristine corporate tower on Kolhar.
Right, back to Venport.
Josef Venport is standing at his window, looking down at his massive landing fields. He has heavy machinery, fuel tankers, endless cargo shuttles. He controls the ultimate physical and economic power in the universe.
He has it all.
But when he receives the intelligence report of what just happened at Walgis, his entire operating system basically crashes.
Oh, he short circuits.
He is pacing his office, clenching his fists in absolute disgust.
Venport is completely destabilized. He shouts, "It defies reason. This is more insane than Manford has been before."
He can't fathom it.
He is struggling with the exact paradox you highlighted earlier. He repeats it out loud. He says, he left his own followers to rock from the pandemic, and they cheered him as he did it.
Right.
He accurately labels Manford a madman and a mass murderer. But Venport's cognitive framework, which operates exclusively on the logic of self-interest, simply cannot process the data.
And the failure isn't just Venport's. His mentat, Drago Roget, the human supercomputer, designed to calculate every statistical probability with flawless logic, experiences a profound system failure.
A literal error message in his brain.
Yeah. Drago actually apologizes to Venport. He admits, it defies logic. If I am to make more accurate projections about our opponent, I shall have to learn to think more irrationally.
This raises an important question. Let's analyze why Drago's logical failure is so monumental in the context of asymmetrical warfare.
Okay.
Why is Venport, a man with near infinite resources, so deeply terrified by this event? Look at the material ledger. Venport lost one minor transport ship.
Yeah, nothing to him.
He lost a few souk doctors he had no personal or financial attachment to. Materially and economically, it is a rounding error. Venport's empire was entirely unharmed.
Right. It wasn't about the financial loss, and it certainly wasn't about grief for the people of Walgis.
Precisely. The terror stems from the sudden realization that the foundational rules of reality no longer apply.
The game has changed.
Venport's entire empire, his entire understanding of leverage and power, is built on a single assumption.
That people want to live.
That human beings will act in their own biological self-interest. He assumes survival is the immutable baseline of human behavior. If I have a monopoly on the water supply, and you are dying of thirst, you will eventually comply with my demands to get the water.
Right, that's just basic economics.
That is the logic of commerce and empire. Manford just proved with absolute finality that this rule does not govern the Butlerians.
So what does this all mean? Let's push that further.
Okay.
If your opponent doesn't care about survival, how do you defeat them? Venport tries to soothe his own panic, right? He looked at his massive fleet, his mutant navigators, his advanced technology, and he dismisses the Butlerians as primitive barbarians. He insists they are no match for us.
He's trying to reassure himself.
But Drago, the human computer who just realized his algorithms are useless, delivers a chilling counterpoint. He says very quietly, and yet I fear they will win.
It's a terrifying moment.
Why does the entity of pure logic, backed by superior technology, conclude that they will lose to people wielding primitive weapons who are actively dying of preventable diseases?
Because Drago recognizes that fanaticism is an incredibly potent, almost insurmountable evolutionary advantage in an ideological war.
An advantage.
Yes, a logical system is inherently fragile because it relies on predictable responses. The rules of engagement are based on mutual self-preservation.
Right.
But when you engage an opponent who operates entirely outside the paradigm of survival, your logic becomes a fatal liability. You cannot negotiate with an enemy who views their own physical destruction as a spiritual victory.
No, you can't.
You cannot threaten a leader who will gladly vaporize his own adoring followers to protect their ideological purity.
You essentially lose all your leverage.
Exactly. Rationality assumes a shared desire to exist. If you remove that desire, the rational mind is flying blind. Venport's people will fight hard, but they will ultimately fight to survive.
And the Butlerians.
Manford's people will fight to die. In a war of attrition, the side that eagerly embraces death possesses a terrifying tactical supremacy. Drago foresees that logic cannot defeat a mobilized delusion.
That is an incredibly haunting realization.
Truly.
And it synthesizes the core mechanics we've extracted from this source material today. We have examined a universe where the architecture of ideological purity completely overwrites the biological imperative of survival.
We really explored the extremes.
We analyzed how a cynical, sociopathic industrialist accidentally steps into the role of savior, only to be violently thwarted by a deeply traumatized leader who acts as an executioner, all while genuinely believing he's an agent of love.
The narrative maps out the massive, catastrophic blind spots generated when a society relies exclusively on either absolute logic or absolute faith.
It's dangerous on both sides.
Venport's pure logic failed because it was entirely devoid of empathy and failed to account for the irrational complexities of the human condition. Manford's pure faith failed his people because it lacked the humility and compassion necessary to accept help from someone outside his tribe.
And this is where we bring the lens back to you, the listener. It is incredibly easy to look at Manford Torondo, the Butlerians, and the Red Plague as extreme fictional caricatures isolated in a sci-fi universe.
Right. It feels far away.
But the psychological architecture driving them is active in our world right now.
Consider the core mechanism of the tragedy at Walgis. Manford Torondo weaponized his trauma and his identity to reject a perfectly valid, scientifically sound cure that would have saved tens of thousands of lives. He didn't reject the medicine because it didn't work. He rejected it entirely because of who was delivering it.
Because it was Venport.
He could not separate the value of the solution from his hatred of the messenger. So evaluate your own ideological structures. In our modern landscape, how often do we collectively reject a valid solution, an undeniable truth, or a much-needed cure, not because the solution is flawed, but simply because we despise the political or cultural identity of the person offering it?
It's the ultimate diagnostic question. Thank you for joining us on this deep dive.